Today for predictions versus reality, continuing in the AFC South, we got to talk about a team that I thought was going to finish pretty bad despite what everyone else thought, but also they finished so bad that I don't think anybody expected them to finish where they finished. I'm talking about the Jacksonville Jaguars. We're going to talk about where I had them in August, what happened with their season and what went wrong, and then we're going to conclude with how this team can get better. But before we begin officially, all right, and welcome in everybody. Hope you're having a fantastic, fantabulous, awesome freaking day. My name is Garrett Shumake, and you're listening to the Shumake Take. Welcome in to Predictions versus Reality. The offseason series is wrapping up very quickly here. Once the AFC South is uploaded, Predictions versus Reality will be finished, and that means we can fully focus on free agency and the rest of the offseason that is coming up over the next few months. That being said, before we begin officially going into our discussion, there's three things I want to mention with all of you. Number one, if you are new around here on the channel and you like what you're listening to, you like my content, please consider hitting the like button and subscribing to the channel. Hitting those two buttons only takes a couple of seconds and it helps the channel out tremendously and continues to help me grow and spread my football passion to more and more people. We're trying to hit 50 subscribers really soon. That way we can begin live streaming if we want to. That way more possibilities are open for making content for the Shumake Take. And then I also want to hit 100 subscribers by the start of next season. That way we have a little community built and we can begin growing even more together. Also, number two, free agency is in full swing right now. For the Jaguars specifically, there's a couple moves I will mention at the end. But if there's a big move that I missed, it is not because I forgot it or intentionally left it out. It's because news drops like flies quickly and out of nowhere. So if something drops while I recorded this video, well, I don't know. I can't do anything about that. I apologize. But also, that being said, for the third thing, I will have free agency videos dropping on Thursday and Friday. On Thursday, we're going to talk about all of the offseason moves, all the free agency moves, giving analysis and grades for all the big moves on offense, and then we'll do the same thing on Friday, but with the defense. So that being said, let's discuss the Jacksonville Jaguars. Where did I have the Jacksonville Jaguars in August? Well, I had this team finishing 7-10. Well, a lot of people thought the Jacksonville Jaguars would step up and be better this year. I simply didn't buy it. And here's why. The secondary on paper looked awful. It looked horrible. And they also finished horrible, by the way. I wasn't too excited about the left side of the offensive line. And then the weapons for Trevor Lawrence were solid, but not exciting. Brian Thomas Jr. ended up being great. You know, he was a rookie, right? At the time, you're hyped up about him. You don't really know how well he's going to be, right? It's a rookie, right? You cannot expect a rookie to come in here and play really well, even though he did, which we'll talk about later on. Then Christian Kirk, I thought would still be good, right? He's been the reliable security blanket player for them and for Trevor Lawrence. But Gabe Davis, they gave him a contract. And honestly, after like the playoff win against Buffalo or against Kansas City, where the playoff loss, but his 4-touchdown game against Kansas City, right? After that, he simply just wasn't the same player in years afterward. So I wasn't really high on him when they signed him anyways. I thought they overpaid him a little bit. And then Evan Ingram, solid, reliable tight end. But overall, that concluded a group of weapons that I was not super duper high about at the time. And then lastly, I simply wasn't high on Doug Peterson. After the collapse that happened with the Jaguars in 2023 and looking at their inconsistent play in 2022, after that, I was like, nah, Doug Peterson's not the guy. And then as the year went on and on, more and more, I felt right by deciding, oh yeah, I'm not in on Doug Peterson anymore. That being said, like I mentioned, everyone thought that this team would bounce back. They started 8-3 in 2023 and then somehow finished 9-8 and only won one game the rest of the way, which in my opinion is nuts, right? A complete flip from what happened in 2022. And also people wanted to say hyped because they won that playoff game against the Chargers. And then they had they had extended Trevor Lawrence's contract, made him one of the top 5 highest paid quarterbacks in the NFL. And people said he was going to be great. Best offense he's had around him since coming to Jacksonville. I simply did not buy it at all. And while I was correct, I also will say that this was not where I expected the Jaguars to finish. I did not expect them to finish as bad as where they finished at 4-13. And their thing was, oh, excuse me, I'm getting off track here. I have mine kind of blanked out. I apologize. So their final record was 4-13. Their offense ranked 25th, and their defense finished 31st. And their three best wins were against New England, 32-16. They beat the Colts 37-34. And the second time around, they beat Tennessee 20-13. Those were their three best wins. All of them were not great wins, of course, except for the New England one, but also everyone beat up on New England. That was their thing, right? Every week, except for like a couple, New England got beat up on. So, excuse me, I think I just burped. I don't know if Mike heard that. They did. I'm sorry. But anyways, talking about the Jaguar season, it was just bad from start to finish. They looked shaky at the beginning of the year, and then more and more injuries toppled on top of the issues that I already talked about with this team going into the year. And before we knew it, it was just a dysfunctional mess of a football team by year's end that saw Doug Peterson get fired, Trevor Lawrence got hurt, a bunch of players got hurt on the offensive side of the ball, and the defense did not live up to the defensive line didn't live up to the hype, and the rest of the defense was just genuinely terrible. So what went wrong with the Jacksonville Jaguars season? Well, all of these I kind of mentioned a second ago, but I want to start with the injuries on offense. Christian Kirk got hurt. Evan Ingram got hurt. Gabe Davis got hurt. And all these guys were supposed to be key players were supposed to be a contributor to Trevor Lawrence being really good this year. But honestly, with the injuries, it was all for naught. And on paper, I could see why people were excited, at least. You look at Christian Kirk and Evan Ingram as security blankets, and then Gabe Davis and Brian Thomas Jr. were going to give the offense the deep speed that they missed in 2023, and it was all for nothing. All the injuries piled up, and it led to no consistency on offense whatsoever. And then you add on top of that, the offensive line was mid. The right side was actually pretty good, in my opinion. Cam Robinson, their left tackle, ended up getting traded, right? Left guard wasn't that much better. And then you look at the metrics, when the quarterbacks for Jacksonville, whether it was Trevor Lawrence or Mac Jones, when they were able to get the ball out quickly, on time, and play within structure of the offense, the offensive line, looking at the metrics, was one of the best units in the NFL. And I'm not going to take that away from them. That's a true fact. That is a true fact. Look that up. When the offensive line was playing in structure and the ball was getting out when it needed to get out, this offensive line was fantastic. Straight up. But when plays had longer development or a play broke down and Trevor Lawrence or Mac Jones had to play out of structure, this offensive line completely went to doo-doo. They completely fell apart and was one of the worst offensive lines in the NFL. The more the time to throw number went up. And then run blocking is where it was consistently not good enough. They couldn't generate holes, and the coaching from Doug Peterson did not do enough to try and adapt and fix that. Which, moving on, the run game was terrible for Jacksonville. Travis Etienne took a big step backwards and was very disappointing, and he was so bad that he got benched for Tank Bigsby, who actually quietly had a decent year. Not bad, but not great. But it was okay, right? But overall, it was not good enough, and for a passing game that was already debilitated from all the injuries that they had, and now you have a recipe for disaster. And then when Trevor Lawrence got hurt, all the wheels fell off the tracks. The wheels on the train completely derailed, and at that point, not only was it over at that point, but it was beyond salvaging or repairing. The last thing I want to mention was this defense being awful. And the thing was, I expected the secondary to be a liability, but I did not expect for that to be the case for this defensive line. This defensive line was the only thing going into the year I was truly confident about. Josh Hines Allen's a great edge rusher. Trevon Walker has gotten better every year he's been in the league. Then they traded for Eric Armstead, who at the time was considered one of the best defensive tackles in the NFL, and still probably should be, maybe not. I don't know. I'll leave that up to you guys. Anyways, on paper, this defensive line should have been really, really good, but they didn't. And quite frankly, they were one of the worst defensive lines in the NFL. Javon Walker did finish with 10 sacks, but went quiet a lot of times. He was very hot and cold. Josh Hines-Allen simply didn't live up to expectations this year. It was not his best year playing football. And Eric Armstead simply underperformed, and the rest of that entire defensive tackle spot completely underperformed. The defensive tackles for the Jaguars were one of the worst position groups for defensive, or one of the worst defensive tackle groups in the NFL in terms of being able to generate big plays, stopping the run, getting pressure, getting sacks, right? They were near the bottom of the NFL in a lot of those metrics, right? And as a defensive line overall, they were 30th in the NFL in sack percentage at 5.3%, and they were 28th in sacks with 34. This defensive line was not good enough. And along with the other issues on defense, led to an absolute disaster on that side of the ball as well. And so you get underwhelming play on both sides, injuries on both sides, and what you have is a 4-13 team that simply could never get out of its own way. So now, how can the Jaguars get better? Because there's a lot of conversation to be had with the Jacksonville Jaguars so far this offseason. Well, starting with their big three needs, number one is corner. They need a corner in the first round. Well, maybe not in the first round. They're probably going to draft Mason Graham out of Michigan, which is their second biggest need, defensive tackle. But corner is also a massive need. And yes, they signed Jordan Lewis, which helps, but you need another starter there. And so I'm expecting them to draft one in the second round. Like I said just a second ago, they're going to go with their second biggest need in the first round, which is defensive tackle. They're probably going to draft Mason Graham, the guy out of Michigan, to help give them juice there, which would be a massive help in addition, in my opinion, which could be, right? But corner and defensive tackle, those two are the biggest ones. Offensive line is the third biggest one. And it still is, per se, because there's a couple holes that need to be filled. But Jacksonville did sign Patrick McCarry from Baltimore, and then they signed to play guard, and they signed tackle Robert Hainsey and gave him a small contract to just kind of be a bridge guy at left tackle. And you still need another guard. You need a center. Mitch Morse retired. And then you have Anton Harrison at right tackle, the going into year 3, the guy out of Oklahoma that I still like. I'm still pretty high on. So they are making moves there, but that's not to say that they still have holes that need to be addressed. Other needs that they have are wide receiver. Outside of Brian Thomas Jr., who's going to be the wide receiver 2 on this team, like definitively, Gabe Davis. I can't rely on that. Christian Kirk is gone. Evan Ingram is gone, which leaves a need at tight end. And then safety, they lost Andre Sisco, so they need another starter there. I don't know where they're going to go. There's not a lot of free agent safeties available now, so maybe just get one in the draft on day 3 and day 2 and see what happens, right? But that being said, this team has a lot of needs to fill, but at least they can be in a good position to address one of them, which is Mason Graham at defensive tackle, and they added on to their offensive line and corner groups. So they are showing signs and making the right moves to at least look like they are improving. But that being said, I really don't know what's going on in Jacksonville, because Liam Cohen, I like the move to bring in a young offensive-minded head coach. That's something I said when Doug Peterson was fired. This is what they need to do, and they did that. The process was weird, though. More on Liam Cohen more than it is the Jaguars. And then also bringing in James Gladstone to be the GM a week before the Combine, 2 weeks before free agency, in my opinion, was dumb. Not the move itself of bringing in James Gladstone. I have no issues with James Gladstone whatsoever. What I have an issue with is that they signed him to, or maybe not signed him, they brought him in to be the general manager so freaking late in the process. Like, by the beginning of February, almost every team that needed a new GM had their new GM, so they had a whole month to prepare for the Combine and for free agency, where James Gladstone comes in and he gets a week for the Combine and 2 weeks before free agency? Like, what? Like, how does this dude gonna have time to properly acclimate, adjust, implement policies, get on page with the scouting department, get on page with the rest of the coaches? Like, there's simply not enough time, in my opinion, for him to fully settle into the job and be ready to go. And that's on Jacksonville for not putting him in the best position to succeed, which Jacksonville does all the time. So why should we expect anything different in their front office? Whoop-de-doo. So there's that. But that being said, I do like that they are making moves and addressing the big needs on their team. That's important. That's really cool to see, because at least it looks like they are doing something and they are making an effort to improve where they were bad at. And with all the new pieces that'll be coming in, and with Liam Cohen, right, this is going to be a very interesting team to follow in the offseason, because there is an avenue where there is a scenario where Jacksonville could make a jump, right? You look at Liam Cohen and you look at what he's done with quarterbacks that he has coached in his time in his coaching career. And you look at how every quarterback he's coached has become successful and become really good, right? Or looked really good at a point. That could mean Trevor Lawrence could make that big jump that people have been wanting to see. I'm going to crap all over that and tell you right now, I'm not buying that. I'm not going to buy it. I've been hearing that same exact phrase for 3 years. I am not going to entertain it for a fourth. You will not be able to convince me that Trevor Lawrence is a good NFL quarterback that deserves the contract that he got paid. I've said that a lot, and I've kind of built myself, maybe not like a full reputation per se. I don't have a lot of subscribers, right? But at the same time, I kind of consider myself, I guess, a Trevor Lawrence hater. I don't hate on the guy. It's just I don't understand why so many people try to tell me and tell you guys that Trevor Lawrence is a good quarterback when he's obviously not. But that being said, he needs to prove that he can get better. And until then, my stance is going to remain the same on that. And you know what? Right now, I challenge you, Jacksonville Jaguars fans, or any of you that are listening to this video, I challenge you to leave a comment down below and try and convince me that Trevor Lawrence is going to be good this year. And if you can give me a very, very good argument that Trevor Lawrence not only is a good quarterback, will be good this year and have the best year of his career, and then he goes and does it in 2025, I will buy, and I will record it and put it on the channel of me buying a Trevor Lawrence jersey. Am I going to wear it? Probably not. But I will do that. I will go out and spend my hard-earned money and do that if a Jacksonville Jaguars commentator can do that. And I will record the whole thing and prove it as well. I'll do it. I'll do the whole 9 thing. Here, you want to shake on it? Here. There, we shook on it. So it's a deal. So that being said, that will conclude the Jacksonville Jaguars video. Thank you guys so much for watching and listening. If you guys enjoyed it, please leave a like and hit the subscribe button. If you're new around here on the channel, I would also advise you to do that for you guys as well. All that being said, it takes... oh my God, what am I talking about, dude? Jesus Christ. My brain is running so fast. I said the same thing in the Colts. My brain is just firing on all cylinders right now. But anyways, going back to our point, make sure to hit the like and subscribe button. It helps channel out tremendously. It only takes a couple of seconds. It's free. It also continues to help me grow and spread my football passion to more and more people. Along with that, I already talked about it with Jaguars fans, but let me know your thoughts in the comments down below, more than just about trying to convince me Trevor Lawrence actually being good. Do you think that they're going to draft Mason Graham in the first round? Would you prefer a trade down? Who else do you think they're going to bring in free agency? What do you like of James Gladstone and Liam Cohen? Do you think they will make this team better? And ultimately, do you think this team will get better significantly? I want to hear all of your thoughts. Lastly, make sure you guys share the video, whether it's by social media or by word of mouth, getting everybody locked in and locked on to the Shumake Take podcast, coming out with great content for you guys every single week, with predictions versus reality wrapping up here with one more video to go after this one. Free agency will be in full swing, so be prepared for free agency videos to drop Thursday and Friday. Keep an eye out for that. But until then, that is going to do it for me today, guys. Hope you guys have enjoyed, and I will see you all next time.